Each year, the John Glenn College of Public Affairs honors an alum who has devoted their career to public service. This is our Distinguished Alumni Award for Career Achievement. Sometimes this award is for a singular event, but more often than not, it's to someone who has, over the course of a career, really demonstrated a commitment to serving others and using the degree to advance the condition of those who are in need of help and assistance from the public sector. This year's awardee is incredibly deserving. It is Ryan Gies, the Director of the Department of Youth Services for the state of Ohio. Ryan has served the state of Ohio through the Department of Youth Services for almost his entire career, close to 3 decades of service. Having started at the Department of Youth Services soon after completing his Master's of Public Administration from what was then the School of Public Policy and Management, now the Glenn College, and before that, completing a Bachelor's of Arts from Syracuse University. He has been a clear example of someone who, particularly in dealing with a population that is very challenged, youth who are engaging the juvenile justice system, he has demonstrated a commitment to delivering the highest quality of programs through marshaling the appropriate resources, creating the right programs to put in place to help people in need, but more importantly, throughout demonstrating a humanity and a commitment to the dignity of people who are struggling through something that is a very, very challenging time in their lives. So it was a pleasure when this possibility came up to honor Director Gies for his distinguished service. I wish we were meeting in person and I was handing you this award directly, but please, all of you out there, join me in virtually congratulating Ryan for receiving the Distinguished Alumni Award for Career Achievement.
Oh, thank you so much. This is an honor, and it's obviously a very humbling experience as well. Thank you.
Well, Ryan, you kindly agreed to answer some questions I have that give us some insight into the good work that you do. But let's start at the beginning. What made you pursue public service, and who were some of your inspirations?
I appreciate you taking me way back like that. It's interesting to be able to jump back in time in this conversation. But you mentioned I went to Syracuse University. I actually went there with aspirations of being a journalist. And pretty early on in taking a social science class called Policy Studies, I got extremely interested in public policy and the way that we as a civilization deal with social problems. So before too long, I added a second major and then ended up traveling to Columbus, Ohio to the Ohio State University to get my master's in public administration. As you're probably aware, I ended up doing a specialization in criminal justice and correctional administration. So among my very influential mentors was Ron Huff.
Yeah.
His leadership, his mentorship, and certainly his interest and expertise in both criminal justice and juvenile justice played a big part. In addition to the faculty, certainly there, the opportunity to just launch myself straight from being in the summer between my 2 years of the MPA program to entering in as an intern at the Ohio Department of Youth Services was obviously a wonderful launching pad for me and an opportunity to really take my fascination with public policy and social problems and apply it directly into an agency that was going through some tremendous transformation and obviously dealing with the social problem of juvenile crime in Ohio. Another person that has been very instrumental and inspirational in my career has been Dr. Edward Latessa. He actually is a Ohio State grad for bachelor's, master's, and PhD, but he's somebody who's really paved a trail for juvenile justice and criminal justice reform in Ohio. So tribute to him, a lifelong service of career and the work that he's done with me personally as a mentor, knowing my family and everything. It's just been wonderful. So the relationships that we develop over the course of our career are really impactful and stay with us.
So take us through your career a little bit. When you set out on this adventure after you first left the MPA program, did you have it in your sights that you would be director of the Department of Youth Services? And my guess is no, but curious, just a little bit about the journey and what were the choices you saw as sort of critical along the way that got you to be in this position now?
Yeah, I think only in hindsight can I say that I was progressing towards being the director, because I certainly never thought that along the way. And when I joined the department, it was under the leadership of Director Dino Natalucci Persichetti, who for the first decade plus of my work there, he was the director, and he was the only director that I had known at that time. So, and a lot of our transformations took place during that time. So. It's hard to say that I was looking towards his path. It's also probably honestly hard to say that I was expecting to be at the Department of Youth Services 27 years later. But
Yeah.
I was extremely fortunate to come into the department in an area that was working with county juvenile courts, that was working with a movement to support community alternatives versus incarceration of kids whenever that was possible. And as you referenced in the introduction, really taking the opportunity to try to look at kids as a whole, take them at maybe one of the lowest points in their young lives, and try to find ways to equip them, their families, and their communities for a more successful future than they've had. So I like to joke, and my youngest son says this is a classic dad joke, but I do like to joke to our new class when they come in of new hires that I have the longest internship on history in the department, because there was really no disconnection between, I think, what I did as an intern and how I moved forward. It was a very logical progression. I think I moved from being an intern for almost a year to being an administrative assistant, still in the same office, moving to doing field monitoring, to managing of our county subsidies, all the way up to, as you mentioned, being a deputy director over essentially everything other than the operation of our juvenile correctional facilities, and then moving to director. So there was never what I would say was sort of a huge jump there. It was very much a logical progression, and I think it helped me build on the academic experiences, the real life experiences, and then apply kind of as I went on. So it was, like I said, if I look back in reverse, I guess I was always working towards this, even if that wasn't my concrete plan.
So you've had this incredible career, almost 3 decades in the same enterprise, and now you're the leader of that enterprise. So you presumably know its ins and outs, its strengths, its weaknesses. Tell us a little bit about your current role and what are your priorities? What do you hope to accomplish in your leadership?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be appointed to this position. I guess it was a year ago last January, close to 2 years, January of 2019, by Governor DeWine. And it's an opportunity to take what I was fortunate to work on the community side of our efforts and really apply it across the agency in partnership with county juvenile courts. So I have a vision that juvenile justice is really just one part of us supporting our communities, supporting families, because no kid exists in a vacuum and no family exists in a vacuum. And just because a kid has a label that's a behavior that they had that was actually an offense doesn't define who that kid is and doesn't define what their future is going to be. So the vision is that when we do have to remove a kid from their home, I want to see it in the most normal, most transitional, most reentry minded environment we can. But the ultimate goal is the cliche of the right intervention at the right place at the right time. And certainly for the right kid. We don't want to over-program, we don't want to over-restrict somebody who's in the growth and development stage of their lives. So as an agency as a whole, we want to really be a seamless continuum in partnership with our county juvenile courts, so that any kid in Ohio who has made poor decisions ends up getting an opportunity and getting the appropriate level of accountability as well in response to what they've done, so that we meet what's really our ultimate definition of public safety, and that is that a kid will lead a law-abiding life, not that they'll be removed from a society and incarcerated for a long period.
So I can imagine that public service in general can be challenging, particularly as you move into a cabinet level position. But I would imagine that the world that you work in, dealing with young people who, as you say, are at a low point in their lives, can be taxing, can strain you emotionally, as well as just your sort of critical functions as you're trying to do your job and make all the trains run on time. How do you stay recharged? How do you keep that inspiration going when you're seeing some people at a very difficult stage of their life?
Well, you hit on it a little bit, I think, and that's being able to function at different levels. The value of being able to work closely with kids and be able to work with our staff is that you stay in touch with reality. You are engaged in the personal stories, and sometimes those hurt a lot, and sometimes those are, huge successful moments because you see something happen that you didn't expect was going to happen. But as I think you're referencing, is if we get so bogged down in that as someone who's in a role of public administration, that we end up losing sight of really the greater good and the greater impact that we can have, then we lose something. So it's the ability, I think, and for me personally, is to combine the fact that I'm really fascinated with public policy and how communities work and how we incentivize the behavior that we want. And I don't just mean of young offenders, I mean of people and stakeholders in society, of decision makers, but how we incentivize what we want to see happen so that we can work towards the ultimate goal, which is being a caring society that meets the needs of our individuals while also holding folks accountable and making sure that we've got a safe communities for all of us to live in. So for me personally, it's really a mix of my fascination with public policy and how things work with the investment that we have in young people, whether they're kids that are first coming in front of a juvenile court judge or they're kids that have been committed to us for a period of 6 months up until their 21st birthday.
Well, Ryan, we as members of the state of Ohio and community members here, we thank you for your service and your care and attention to a population that needs a lot of attention. So thank you and congratulations once again on your well-deserved honor as our Career Achievement Distinguished Alumni Award winner.
Thank you so much, Dean Brown. I appreciate it.